Welcome to the Off Tackle with John Fina show on the Overreaction Sports Network. Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome, everybody, into the Off Tackle with John Fina show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe, brought to you exclusively, as every Victory Monday is, here on the Overreaction Sports Network by Big Bear Barbecue Supply Store in Depew, New York, on French Road. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. That guy sitting next to me is John Fina, former offensive tackle for the Buffalo Bills for a very long time. A decade, right, is what it amounts to, John?
A decade.
A nice double-digit round number all at the same time. But it is so good to have every single one of you joining us, whatever platform you are consuming at this podcast or vidcast on. Please please subscribe, hit the thumbs up button. Do us a favor, help us get our metrics up, and don't miss a single moment of our content as we bring you daily, I believe, John, very good daily content around our beloved Buffalo Bills, the only network that can brag about having two former NFL Buffalo Bills players as hosts on their network. So it's good to have every single one of you guys join us. The Buffalo Bills, as we know already, are at 9-2 after defeating the Kansas City Chiefs at home in Buffalo. I just got done watching the game for the first time, not in person. So for the first time on television after watching it in person yesterday. And John, you've had a look at the all-22. We've let the game settle inside of our craw for about 24 hours. How are we feeling?
Oh, man, it feels so good. And I took a little time today. I was really busy today, man. It was, I just wanted to lay in bed and watch the game like 17 times in a row. But, life calls us. So I was too busy to do that. But I did dig into the all-22, and I got an opportunity to just kind of let it run for a little bit. It was so satisfying. This game had so many really cool things to look at. I mean, I hope everybody DVRs the games and goes back and watches it, because there are just little pearls everywhere, Joe. I mean, just so much cool stuff. But to answer your question, some of my takeaways, oh, man, there's so many. There's so much to digest. I'll start with some pretty top-level stuff. Codrington, impact.
Yeah. We don't talk about him enough. We don't talk about him enough, but he made plays. Plays. So, knock on wood, he keeps it up. Our running backs, not great. We'll talk about that when we review film, but not what they've been doing for the past, 10 weeks or so. And I didn't really enjoy it. Did not enjoy it at all. Was that based on who they were playing? Because there was also an aspect of, and obviously this was on Twitter today, for those of you that don't necessarily follow Baldy's breakdowns, Brian Baldinger, he was talking about how they left Osiris Torrance on an island with Chris Jones, which to me, I guess.
I'll give you a little insight into that too. But
okay, perfect. It doesn't seem like the best game plan in the entire world. Every other team in the league double teams them, and it's like, Osiris, this is your night, bro.
Okay, I'll address it since you wanted to dig into that.
No. Well, we can get back to it.
Chris Jones is a menace. Okay. Yes. And as I watched the game, I was really trying to make sure I keyed on how we were dealing with him. But right. Spagnuolo is an incredible defensive coordinator, and he schemed very well to put us in a position where Connor McDermott had to account for a walk-up linebacker on the snap of the ball, which could preclude you from double teaming, right? If a guy's inside of the feet of the down lineman, you count him as a down lineman. And they situationally called defensive fronts that made it damn near impossible to double him. Smart.
Interesting. That is smart. And it's funny because you just said something that I, and probably nobody else that's listening to this has heard before, that if how did you phrase that? That if a linebacker creeps up into what position?
So when you look at defensive linemen, they always have one hand on the ground, right? Two feet back, one hand on the ground. When a linebacker, or I don't care, a DB, comes to the line of scrimmage and their feet are inside the feet of the defensive line, you have to count him as a down lineman, because sometimes they bail, sometimes they come, but he becomes part of the count. He's inside the box, he's inside the feet, he's now down lineman. And they, by luck or by plan, they were able to bring linebackers and I think a DB on one occasion right up on Connor McDermott or right up on the tackle. And you can't ignore that guy because then you give up a free runner. So Spagnuolo, I mean, he did a terrific job. However, and I'll show you one, when you live by the sword, Joe.
Sword too. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. When I
got more things to say.
Oh, perfect. Right? Yeah.
A couple of gifts. One was a gift, and one was just something that was extremely satisfying to me. Kelsey's huge game yesterday. I just enjoyed that. What was that, 2 for 8?
My fantasy teams did not enjoy it, but yes.
Kind of secretly, rubbing my hands together and, a little Schadenfreude there, maybe. If you know Schadenfreude, you might have to look it up. And then Worthy. Oh, Xavier Worthy, thank you for the gift. This is not college, kid. You got to pretend like you are at the line and lean and keep those toes in. So I was pretty excited about that. And generally speaking, and the film will reveal this, it was very clear that the Bills stuck with their plan. They were going to go 6 guys in the box, deal with giving up some Kareem Hunt runs, and play the normal defense they do. The Chiefs, on the other hand, they made it very clear that they were going to stop James Cook, Ty Johnson, and Ray Davis, and they schemed to do it. And that was a fact. We weren't going to make a lot of hay in the running game yesterday, and to Spagnuolo's credit, his game plan really executed very, very well against our run. In the end, what they wanted to do is rely on Josh making mistakes or a ill-founded belief that our wide receiver room would not come up big, that stars wouldn't emerge. And the ball spread around, the stars emerged, and we got the result that we, Bills Mafia, wanted.
Yeah, I love even the way that Jim Nantz, I believe, put it, or maybe it was Romo, just said that, they didn't let the win come to them, or they didn't hope that they won the game. They went and they basically took the win, which was big. When I watch games back, though, what's hard for me is to, I'll say, be objective, right? So a lot of the conversation around social media today in and amongst Bills and Chiefs fans is the quote unquote pick play. The offensive pick play on the Curtis Samuel touchdown, which looks like it's inadvertent contact. Mac Hollins was running his route. He did not extend himself. He didn't try to avoid the defender. The defender ran into him as he was just basically trying to run his route, which sprung Curtis Samuel free. However, there was 2 blatant face masks in this game that didn't get called on the Chiefs. And I think what bothers me the most as I was clocking this game from my seat and where I sit in the stadium, I have a very, very good view of the field, row 1 of the upper deck around the 30-yard line. And what bothered me during the game yesterday, and I feel like was confirmed in this game, was how bad the officials were spotting the football. And I don't know if you pay attention to this or if you did. Nance even called it out at one point in time, just how badly they had spotted the ball for the Bills, but they were generously spotting the ball for the Chiefs as well. And I know that those 1 yards don't seem like they make a difference, but those 1 yards, they can add up quickly. Like they can add up, and a 7-3 is not an 8-2. An 8-2 is not a 9, sorry, not 8-2. A third and 3 is not a 3rd and 2, and a 3rd and 2 is not a 3rd and 1. I mean, those 1 yards seem to add up, and it's hard for me to watch the game objectively, right? When I see that stuff going on, because I feel like it happens to us and it's not happening to them in a negative fashion.
It's incredible with billions of dollars in the balance that the least detailed, the least exact science of this game is spotting the ball. But you mentioned 2 things, penalties. That was a no call, Mac Hollins. That he was beat already. Samuel had him by 1.5 yards or 2 before Hollins was even near him. And I think what happened was the DB, I can't remember who it was, he faded at depth, which is why he impacted Hollins.
Yeah, McDuffie.
So I think the hardest part for the Kansas City Chiefs to digest was they got a DPI in a situation where they don't see typically a lot of penalties called against them. Right. And they got an offensive holding call in a situation where they might be a little shocked. Like it or not, they do enjoy some pretty good officiating. However you want to interpret that, take it to the bank, right? The other thing, you were mentioning the spots, and there was one in particular, and this is one that I agree with, but they really need to do a little better job. The one spot that I thought was, and it didn't affect the game, thankfully. Josh is scrambling to his left, and by the time he starts his slide, he's borderline perpendicular to the sideline, and it was clear they gave him one less yard, or at least a half a yard that he should have, and it was insignificant, but I think it is a hallmark of a greater problem with spotting. Now, penalties, face masks, spotting the ball. I don't want any more officials on the field. I don't want to tighten it up that way. The game will get worse. The game will slow down. I just think that there are always going to be missed calls on both sides. There are always going to be axes to grind by every fan base. But if it's reasonably equal, which I think it was in this game, more or less, and the Bills played a very clean game. Very clean.
We didn't talk about it on the postgame show yesterday, but they did. They played very clean.
Very clean game with respect to penalties. I don't know. Maybe they're dirty. I hope so. But those are some takeaways on that discussion that I think, you always got to take a deep breath. And I baseline myself when I'm upset by officiating and just saying, you know what, if you win by 21, you take the officials out of the game.
It's true. It's true. You're absolutely not wrong. Before we jump into some all 22 looks and stuff like that, why don't we talk about the show sponsor, Big Bear Barbecue over there in Depew, New York?
Yeah, man, I got to tell you, you got to get over here. I've got chicken in the oven right now, and I'm using Mean Joe Green's rubs, Big Bear rubs, and they are fantastic. I used them on my smoking plan. I like to call it a plan, Joe. It just seems so much more important that way. So I got to tell you, I've just been really, really pleased with the results I'm getting. If you are interested in learning more about barbecue, you've got to get over there. You got to get over Big Bear Barbecue in Depew. He's a great guy. He came to the tailgate. I saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah. He's going to start coming every week. Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, Bills Mafia, if you're on site, get over there. Get over there and learn and talk, and then head on over to the shop. It's Big Bear Barbecue. It's in Depew, New York. Joe, tell them the address because I don't have it handy. If you do,
it's right on the screen. 425 French Road in Depew, New York. So
see that? I can't even read. Read.
God.
But if you go in there, tell them Joe Miller, the Big O, and John Fina sent you. You're going to get 10% off, and you're going to get a door prize. Yep. Guess what? You're going to see things from locals, and you're going to see things that you won't be able to find anywhere else. And this is not a hardware store. This is a barbecue shop for people who really want to get great results.
And I think what the hidden secret here, as far as barbecue goes, and just kind of like what the types of items that barbecue supply stores sell. And I know that we're hanging here for a minute, and I apologize to everybody. Thanksgiving is coming up. And there, whether or not you grill your turkey, or you smoke your turkey, or you deep fry your turkey, or you throw it in the oven, you can still put a rub and brine your turkey in a rub. So go get something special from Big Bear Barbecue this week for Thanksgiving. Wow the family on Thanksgiving and have them pretty much saying, like, what did you do to this turkey? Because it's not what it normally is. And you can get all that stuff from Joe Green at Big Bear Barbecue Supply Store. Again, make sure you let them know that we sent you. But perfect. Good stuff. John, why don't you take us into the world of film review?
Yeah, I gave Vandermark some props yesterday, and then after reviewing the film, I still think he did a hell of a job. Minus about 3 plays, but the couple of those plays that he wasn't great at were situational football, alignment football against the Kansas City Chiefs, and Spagnuolo is hard, right? You're getting thrown not into a vanilla defensive front. So I think he had a couple challenges with some reads. He lost a physical battle, which, we all, have our moments as players. So I won't fault him for that. But by and large, I'll stand by his play, and he should be a proud man today, stepping in for Spencer Brown. I'm going to put this first play up. It's Vandermark on a weak zone, and it looks a little bit like he had a mental error here. So I'm just going to run it for you, Joe. I'll come back here. So Vandermark really ought to be picking up this defensive end. And what he's doing is he's fanning out. So this is all about counting, right? I've talked about this quite a bit, Joe. You got to count. Yep. So if you've got Deion Dawkins and Edwards, and they're going to basically B block, backside combination block to the linebacker that's on the hash marks. Then you've got McDermott and you've got Torrance going to the linebacker, the nickel back that's coming down into the blazing buffalo stripe. And then
Connor McGovern.
What did I say? McDermott,
coach, yeah.
Yeah, he's tiny. He can never play center. All right. I get those two mixed up. Not by size, but by name. And then what Vandermark should do is he needs to be base blocking this defensive end that's right in front of him. He gets confused on the count, and he's fanning out into space, whether it was a bad call, but it doesn't look like it because everybody is on task except for him. So he basically whiffs on nobody. And what do we get? We get Ray Davis just having to get what he can get. Now, I'll tell you this. Ray Davis, James Cook, other than a couple of plays, they danced a little too much. And my next play is going to reflect what I was talking about earlier, where our running backs should have been a little bit more like Kareem Hunt. Kareem, I don't think the Bills were worried about any breakaway speed, but what Kareem Hunt was doing was just throwing his nose in there and getting what he could get. Mm-hmm. So this is the next play is, this is James Cook. I'm going to run it. This is also zone weak to Vandermark again. You've got Torrance and McGovern, right? It's basically the same play we just looked at. Now, the issue here is, watch James Cook. He's downhill, and there's a gap. There's a seam. It's not big, but how many times have we seen James Cook head through a seam or a gap that's much smaller? He ought to be right up on Torrance's big behind right now and just pressing to get 3 or 4. But instead, he bounces it back.
Straight back, yeah.
Not only is this bad because you're cutting back into the teeth of the defense, but you know me, I love wide receivers and tight ends, but not so much as blockers. And they just they get bumps, but they tend to fail.
If you freeze the frame back in that spot where you see that gap, I mean, you blocked for what was a young man at the time, but an older man now that made a living squirming through tiny holes like that and is getting 25, 30 yards after he gets through that seam. I mean, that was the hole that Thurman Thomas was looking for. Pretty much, so, he would turn his shoulder pads and like dip straight through it.
So here's a coaching point for coaches, actually, not for players. So I told you I coach a little high school football, Joe. Sometimes I go back and I talk to the running backs and I say, look at this defensive alignment and think about the play that's called. Where's the soft spot? Where is it likely we're going to have a seam? All right. So if you look at the front side, which is Vandermark, you got a one technique or a gap technique between the center and Torrance, and you got a wide end. Now, as you're looking at that as a running back, I'm betting my dollars that my big guys in the middle are going to carry up to 32, and I know that Vandermark can at least get a tie. But on the back side of this, you've got a guy in the B gap, you've got 23 coming down, 20 licking his chops, and the defensive end is kind of in a tight position on the tight end. So pre-snap alignment, I'm heading to the right. I'm going to head downhill where the ball's handed to me. James elects to go to the backside, might pick up 1 or 2, but characteristically, he does a great job getting through really, really small gaps. I think this could have been 6, 7, 8 yard gain. Now, that's just one play in particular. There were many, many where both Ray Davis, James Cook bent it back when I would have preferred they just do like Kareem Hunt, just jump in there, get behind the big guys and let them churn their legs, pick up 3, maybe 4. We were in a lot of 2nd and 9. We were in a lot of 3rd and 8 because we were not just burrowing into the line. All right. And here's the rub. My next play. Why did we continue running the ball? Why? We weren't having great success, right? They had a great plan. But why do you keep running the ball, Joe? because what you get is play action. Now, on the right side of your screen, I hope it's on your right, everybody, look at number 54. All right, you got the middle linebacker. They're communicating. They're talking about what they're going to do. We got big, tight, heavy formation in the game. Now, what's going to happen? They are committed to stopping the run, as I said earlier. And here we go. It looks just like run. It's play action. 54 ducked out of the screen a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, he loses Dawson Knox. He's going to appear in a second here. Right there. He's still got his eyes in the backfield. If he isn't playing the run so hard because of that fake, he might be, 3 or 4 yards down the field right now. Dawson finds that quick seam and goes ahead and murders the camera crew.
So this is the play that Tony Romo said that the Bills actually fooled him on. When I don't remember, is it Shakir on the left of the screen when he ended up in that position, he thought it was going to be a run play. And the Bills, because they had run out of that formation so many times and it looked like a run. So even Romo was like, he said, like, fooled the defense. He goes, and he fooled me too.
That's right. And that's why you do it. And that's why you keep committing to run when you're only picking up a yard or 2 or maybe 3. It's painful to watch, Joe. I'm not going to lie. But when you hit it right, when you hit the play action right, you get a confused defender, you get a gap in the zone, and you get a big play. And these big chunk plays, another thing we didn't talk about last night is we were down the field more yesterday than we had been before. Spagnuolo likes to keep a nice tight box, rely on his defenders. Our guys were coming open, and we were getting some chunks, and the stats reflect it. It was a hell of a game to watch, and I'll promise you, if you go back and dig into the film and you look at the number of play action that we had where we froze linebackers, it'll kind of say, all right, I get it. I don't like Ray Davis going, 6 carries for 14 yards or James Cook getting 7 for 21. It ain't pretty, but those play action completions are the result of that.
Right. You're setting them up for later.
That's right. Now, I just had to show this one because this was just bloody awesome. And this is a pass play. I don't typically do a lot of pass, but look at the box here. All right. You ostensibly have 2, 4, 6, 8 people in the box if you count 20, because he's pretty far down. Right. He's at about 7 yards, and he looks a little persnickety, if you will. Right. We're going to go with 5-man protection plus the running back. So we got 6 to block 8 on the snap of the ball. Now, I'm not a math genius, but that means to me that if they bring 7, we're still short a blocker. We do an amazing job just giving Josh a little bit of time here. If you look, you count from your right. Dawkins is committed. Edwards is committed. McGovern's committed. Torrance is covered. And I think this is Ty Johnson here. He slides across exactly like, is it Ray? Ray Davis slides across exactly like he's supposed to. He can't see the linebacker, but he's going to take the most immediate threat in his visual field. And he comes. But what's great about this, look at Torrance. He's like, there's too many guys. I'm just going to reach my right hand out, and I'm going to affect this guy too. This is going to give Josh an extra second or half a second to get the ball off. But this is 7 guys coming against 6 blockers, Joe. Such a great play.
Yeah, it almost looks like 32 missteps, right? Like he sees Ray Davis coming and like tries to tuck tight in it, like to scooch right around Osiris Torrance, and Osiris just reaches out with a chicken wing and nabs him, basically.
Just
right?
Bumps him just enough. This is Spagnuolo, right? Live by the sword, die by the sword. They're bringing 7, right? That means there's only 4 guys, right? We got 4 guys out. So it's one-on-one all over the place. It's man-to-man. And the idea here is bad throw, great coverage, pressure, sack, and you know what? Great throw, great catch. This is just fantastic to me, because people will look at this and say, oh, you got to protect Josh better. This is a hell of a job. I mean, this is fantastic work here. And this is no JV defensive front we're playing against.
No, it's probably the best in the NFL.
Josh puts that ball right where no one else can get it but our guy. It's great. I got to run it again. I'm salivating. I love this. I love this kind of stuff.
I'm salivating over the rainbow that Josh threw because he rarely ever throws rainbows, and he threw 2 in this game.
He had to. I mean, he had to drop that thing. So 2 things. I'll give you a couple of football expressions, Joe. We call this what 32 is doing, shaving the ass. So you said he missteps here, but he's just trying to come so tight off of Torrance's hiney that Ray Davis can't pick him up. So he's shaving his ass because he knows that 22 is in the gap as well, right? And then the other thing is dropping the ball into the box. So you save the box. The box is the space between our receiver and the sideline. Drop the ball into the box where the defender can't get it, and let your talented guys who make piles of dough come home with a great catch. And there it is.
Not that guy. Only $800,000 is all he's making.
That's still a pile. I'll take.
I mean, definitely more money than I'm making.
It's a nice pile of dough. All right.
You ain't kidding.
All right.
Yeah.
So the last clip, I could have been the first clip, and this was basically what the hell was the Chiefs' plan? All right. They wanted to load the box, they wanted to be aggressive, and they wanted to have a lot of movement, which makes it hard to run against unless you hit a crease at the opportune moment, and you don't always get that. I'll just run it. But look again, all these guys in the box moving and flying around. We chose to run this out, play side to the weak side. We'd be better off here probably doing some pin and pull work, which we did not do a lot of. And as I watched this play, I thought to myself, watch the right side of your screen. Look at Josh. He's going to fake this out. He's almost in no man's land until the defender shows up. But initially when I saw this, I thought we need a bootleg. We need to occupy the defender who's out in space, who's going to show up right about there. There he is, right above the goalpost. But we need a bootleg. And as hard as he was coming down, Josh can still get around that guy. Josh can still lob the ball to a guy in the flat. Later on, what did we get? We got a bootleg, right?
Back it up, still frame back up a little bit. So yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you've got a 10th guy that comes out of basically nowhere and ends up above the goalpost. Yeah, if Josh keeps this ball and bootlegs out to his right, there's only one defender left on the field that can find him.
So what happens is let's run this another frame or two. All right, you see number 6 coming downhill?
Yep.
So he's committed. And I think that is our tight end. Not sure who I think that is, right?
It's Quentin Morris in front of 6.
Morris, thank you.
Yep.
Quentin Morris. So what typically happens at a bootleg here is Quentin Morris will commit, looks like run, and then he bends it back out right into the flat. If Josh had the ball there and Quentin Morris is cutting, he's going to outflank 6. Josh is going to miss the corner coming downhill. Quentin Morris may pick up 18. And we did. We ran bootleg later in the game. So that's what the guys up in the booth are looking at. So,
right.
And this is another thing about what your job is upstairs. You know the play call. We're going full scale, sell out, weak zone with a strong formation on the backside. Somebody in the booth is watching the backside. Is everybody committing? Yes, they are. Pretty soon you get bootleg. And we did it. It's exactly how you make in-game adjustments to plays. This isn't just one play, Joe, as you know. This is weak zone. How can we bootleg off of this? Right. So when you watch this play from the booth, okay, what's the backside end doing? They're all committed. Karlaftis, the defensive end, is committed. 6 is committed. And that's the type of thing they're looking for. And there's a lot to look at upstairs, but this is definitely something they saw. And later on, they put the bootleg in and it was effective.
From what you saw on the All-22, what is it about the Chiefs defense? Excuse me, that makes them so good against the run? We've seen the Bills have success pretty much all season, except for a couple instances. What is it about the Chiefs that makes them so hard to run on? Is it just a gap fit, like that people are just gap sound?
Part of it is scheme. Spagnuolo puts them in positions when he's saying this is 80% chance of run. he's committed to stopping the run. And that's what they did against us. The second part of that is they have really good sized defensive ends who can affect the run extremely well. They got 2 big active guys in the middle at all times, and their linebackers are beasts. And then the third portion of that is they are relentless. They don't take plays off. They are hair on fire from snap to whistle. And as much as I do enjoy Von Miller, I want him to be a little bit more productive. There was a play late in the game, and I think it was on the last drive when it was on their touchdown drive. I think Patrick Mahomes is forced out of the pocket and he scrambles to his right. And Vaughn had taken an inside move and was more or less out of the play. And then he just stopped. But what happened was Mahomes didn't run. He didn't carry the ball to the sideline and get what he could get. He set up and he waited. But the problem was nobody came open. And if Vaughn had said, you know what, I'm going to give that 24-year-old burst of energy and keep going after this SOB.
Continued his pursuit. Yep.
It could have resulted in a sack. It could have resulted in an INT or an incompletion. And that's the kind of thing that I was looking at. I'm like, come on, Vaughn. And you see plays here and there, got to have a motor. And these guys got motors. KC, that's a good, well-coached football team with a philosopher at the DC position who knows how to get it done.
I know that you played for the Buffalo Bills most of your career, 90% of it, 95% of it. So, I mean, but you had different coaches like along the way, head coaches and staffs as far as that goes. I've said this about the Chiefs before. There's just a different energy in certain areas that you can see from their running backs are a perfect example. Their running backs run, and I didn't come up with this phrase. It's just funny to hear people say it. Pacheco runs like he hates the ground. That's how he runs. And when they entered, like put Pacheco on that roster, all of their running backs kind of became that guy. You look at Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt was with the Browns, and while he was serviceable and somewhat productive, he all of a sudden goes back to the Chiefs, picks up whatever that culture is, that hair on fire culture, and he now runs like he hates the ground. Like, it's just interesting to me that does carry, and not every team has it.
Well, I would argue that our 3 guys are that, minus this game. And even and James Cook represented that on his touchdown. I mean, he bounced off the guy and just kept churning and made it in the end zone. And you can, kind of look at the sky, roll your eyes a little bit like you're about to do.
No,
our running backs are, I know, I'm just playing.
Yeah,
our running backs are doing that, minus this game. And Kareem Hunt, I think, is also at a point in his career where he's like, I'm not running out there. That takes too much energy. I don't have those moves. My job is to go downhill, put Patrick Mahomes in a 3rd and 4, the 3rd and 3. And that was their game plan. And it's also the Buffalo Bills defensive game plan. Kareem Hunt didn't break but 2 runs that were more than about 8 yards, I'm pretty sure.
He had the longest run of his season in that game. It was a 18 or 20-yard run.
There you go.
In the 3rd quarter, 4th quarter, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and he's still got his legs up and icing him.
Yeah, for sure. There's just I don't disagree with you that there is a mentality that our running back room has taken on. It's still just a little bit of a different type of urgency and desire to rip your face off that the Kansas City running backs have had for a while. This isn't a new thing this year. It's just a mentality that they bring.
Okay, that's fair, but I would argue that we're building that culture in that room.
I agree. As far as that goes, for sure. I was going to ask you a question about just that in particular, but now I can't remember what it was, but it is what it is. So going into the bye week, I remember what I was going to ask you. What do you think the reason is that they chose Ty Johnson over Ray Davis, primarily in the first half? We didn't see Ray Davis until the 3rd quarter, I think, right?
I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to it. I think if you really wanted to,
there's gotta be. They overthink everything.
Well, I mean, I'll overthink it for you. I'll overthink it for you right now.
All right.
Your feature back is James Cook with Ray Davis right behind him. It was easy to recognize that Spagnuolo wanted to stop the run, and there wasn't going to be a lot made there. Put Ty Johnson in. let the savvier old veteran run into the line, protect the ball a little bit better.
He's bigger too, right? He's bigger than the other two
Yeah,
guys.
I mean, maybe a little bit bigger, but I don't think that any one of the three were going to have great success for the type of defense that we faced. And really, you know, we didn't have a complex running game for this game. We didn't. It was very basic. There wasn't a lot of scheming that we were going to do. And I think a big part of that reason is they move and they show you so many different fronts that you don't want to get into mental error situation and end up, you know, 2nd and 14, 2nd and 13. We only had a couple, even for as low quality as the running game produced, we had very few negative plays because we ran zone and we ran into the teeth of it with the idea that we can run play action off of this. And when late in the game, when it mattered, we ran a bootleg off of it and made a nice completion.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how, if we do face this team again, how they change up what they did. Because it was clear that what they tried to do, the Bills combated, right? They did a good job of fending it off and came out with the outcome that they wanted. To your point about the disguise and switching it up, Josh Allen's touchdown run is that he thought it was man at the snap of the ball, realized it was zone. So they fooled him. He even talked about in the play, and effectively he just decided, I'm going to pump fake this and then take off. And that's what he did.
And a little bit of it really, Joe, is, you know, the odds, the probability, because he's fled the pocket quite a bit recently and hasn't gotten free a whole lot. And he's been shut down a little bit for whatever reason you want to, you know, come up with. So the odds just said, you know,
some point,
eventually you're going to hit 2 kings against the 17, right? And there it was.
And there it was.
And our king rambles into the end zone for 26.5 yards. I'm giving him that half yard.
They have taken the half yard away from him. I will agree with you on that point 100%. It's like, that's definitely not 26. That's 26.5. But good stuff, John. I don't have any other questions for you. It doesn't look like there's any questions necessarily in the comments either. Great. That's some good stuff. It was good to see effectively what happened in the trenches and why the Chiefs were so tough to run on. Any final thoughts before I get us out of here? And we'll enjoy this bye week.
Yeah, you know, the sword cuts, or the knife cuts both their ways, right? I want my players to get a bye week and get some rest and get some treatment and get ready. And, you know, but damn, I kind of want to watch our Bills play on Sunday. Tracy with the freaking, I had to throw this one up. Tracy Fichter, thanks for coming. Joshua Patrick Allen. Yes. Hell yes. We got a guy.
He is him, as basically, as Jerry calls him. We don't usually give him the dude award because he is that dude, right? Is effectively what it comes down to. And then Richard Rush comes in here and he says, oh, you just saw it. Yeah, great film study. Yeah, very, very good job. Always fun talking to you, John. It's always fun to have the game breakdowns. I feel like I've learned more this year. We've been doing this for years, kind of on and off when we could. The end zone cam, the all 22 looks have helped tremendously for me, and obviously giving you control as well has helped as well. If we could just figure out how to get
the problem is, Joe, whenever I come to Buffalo, you and I are hair on fire. We're all over the place. What we need is like an hour and a half where we just sit down at the table with a bottle of bourbon and a bunch of sheets of paper and some pens and really just start drawing it up. And I'll go all geek on you. I thought Jerry, and we'll let Jerry and I'll end up fighting. Hell no, you can't line it up like that.
For a minute there, I thought you said that we were going to grab a bottle of bourbon and a sheet pizza. And I was like, I'm in. Let's do this.
Oh, yeah. That's even better.
Literally where I thought you were going with that. If it's all right with you, my friend, I'm going to get us out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into the Off Tackle with John Fina show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe, brought to you exclusively Victory Mondays, brought to you by Big Bear Barbecue Supply Store in Depew, New York on French Road. So good to have every single one of you guys join us. If you've joined us late on YouTube, please please subscribe, help us get our numbers up. We'd appreciate it. But otherwise, for me, for John, for Jerry, for all of us here at Overreaction, tomorrow, Ryan Talbot from Shout, and then Wednesday, Humpty Hotline, and Thursday, the Big O Show with Jerry Ostrowski. But appreciate you guys. Love you. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.